Hello. So, just finished nursing Halen and he's falling asleep, so I thought I would do my labor and delivery video. I really don't want to spend too much time talking about it because it's kind of upsetting to me in some points. I think that a lot of women that have had an emergency C-section when they went in, wanting to go natural or, I think that they can understand that it is hard to talk about, so I'll just get right into it. On July 13th, or 14th, 13th, I lost my plug. Sorry, something just popped up on my phone. I lost my plug, and I was very excited about it. I jumped up and down. I was like, yes, I'm gonna go into labor. I was just about 40 weeks. I was 39 weeks, I think, in like 5 or 6 days. And obviously that didn't happen. And nothing happened for the next day. On the 15th, I noticed that I was leaking a lot of fluid. Actually, no, it wasn't the 15th, it was the 14th. I noticed I was leaking a lot of fluid. And it is normal in pregnancy to have a lot of extra discharge and things like that, so I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was kind of weird, but, so I ignored it. And the next day, there was even more of it. So we actually went into Emerge that day because, not for the fluid, because Halen wasn't moving a lot. He was very quiet, and he was quite an active baby, so I was starting to feel concerned. So we went in and we did an NST, and of course he was moving up a storm and he was absolutely fine. I mentioned the fluid to my midwife, but she seemed to think that I would know if my water had broken, and it wasn't my water. So okay, whatever. And as by the way, this is TMI to probably a lot of people, I'm so sorry. But as I was getting into the bed to do the NST, I felt like a huge gush of fluid come out of me, and I didn't mention that part to my midwife because she had said, I would know, so I was like, oh, I'll know. So when we got home, I realized that my shorts were soaked. So I kind of put a pad on and just kept an eye on it, and of course, it's really hard to tell with the pad for clear fluid. So, I don't know, I didn't really notice anything weird. So, the next day, I woke up, and as, when you're kind of waking up in the morning and you're rolling over and whatever, not totally awake, I just kept feeling more fluid come out. And I tried to ignore it. I tried to just, that, oh, it's not my water, blah, blah, blah. I got up to pee. I went into the bathroom, and we have, like, a full-size, like, mirror in there. And I actually saw, this is so gross, but I actually saw it shoot out of me. It hit the floor. And that's when I went, okay, that's not discharge. Discharge doesn't do that. So we went back to the hospital, and they did and they checked me and everything. They did I can't remember what it's called, some kind of test on the, whatever was coming out of me, and determined that it wasn't my water. And I later found out the reason that they determined it wasn't my water was because at the time of the test, when they sorry, got some stuck in my throat. When they swabbed my cervix, there wasn't any fluid present. If they had waited a couple minutes or whatever, it probably would have been different. But since there wasn't any when they swabbed, they determined it wasn't my water. So we went home. And the reason we went to Emerge was, well, I was 40 weeks pregnant. And I was also GBS positive. If you don't know what that means, I'm not going to explain it in this video, but basically, if your water breaks before you go into labor when you are GBS positive, it can be a serious thing. So you need to go in and get antibiotics and take it seriously. Obviously, it's a serious thing, you take it seriously. Okay. So we went home. Then on the 16th, we were getting ready to go out, and I started to have contractions. Now, this whole time I had been having contractions. They weren't super, super painful. They were, Braxton Hicks, but there were some that were pretty painful. So I didn't think anything of it. And I also had contractions that were every 3 minutes for hours. And Braxton Hicks that were every 2 minutes for hours and hours. And it was never labor, so I didn't take it seriously. After about, I think it started around 10:30 in the morning, by about 2 p.m., they had continued, and they were getting worse. They were getting more painful, and I kind of went, okay, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I was 40 weeks in one day, and I was like, I'm going to be pregnant forever. Labor is never going to come, so didn't take it super seriously. So I just kind of kept an eye on it all day. Oh, Baba. Kept an eye on it all day, and by 11:30 p.m., we were just sitting in bed gaming, and they started to get more painful. So I had a bath, I took a Tylenol, I drank some water, ate something, all the things that your doctor, your midwife tells you to do when you think you're in labor. So I did all of those things, because when I called my midwife, I wanted it to be like, this is it. I didn't want it to be, oh, take a Tylenol, rest a little bit, anything like that. So, yeah, I did all that, and it just was getting worse and worse. The contractions were still every 3 minutes. They were about a minute long. They were painful. I had to get down on my hands and knees and breathe through them. So we decided to go for a walk. So we went for a walk, we came home, and they actually died down. They didn't get worse, they didn't pick up or anything, they died down. So we got into bed and just tried to relax. And then I started to feel really sick. I started to shake. I was cold, but I was like sweating. I felt like I was going to throw up. By the way, I'm sorry I'm rocking. I hope it doesn't make anyone sick. I felt like I was going to throw up. I took my temperature. It was like 100 degrees. The contractions were still 3 minutes apart, and a minute long. So we decided to call the midwife, and she came and she checked me, and I was only like a centimeter, and I was like, fuck. So, she offered me some morphine and some gravel. And I took it because it had been, going on for almost 24 hours. It hadn't progressed, hadn't picked up. I was in a lot of pain, and I was really, really starting to feel just the physical impact for being in that intense, contracting that long. I was, I had a fever, I was shaking, I felt sick. So, we agreed to go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital, and she came up to us and she said that she wanted us to stay. She wanted to hook me up to antibiotics for the GBS, because she said when she checked me, she saw some fluid come out. And then she said that she believes that my water had been slowly leaking for the last couple of days, and that they just didn't catch it, and so she was worried about that. So, yeah, they hooked me up to antibiotics. They gave me a shot of morphine and gravel, which was amazing. It didn't do anything for the pain, but I was really high. And basically just tried to get some sleep. Jordan went home to pick up our stuff. And, yeah, we were there. And so we tried to sleep. I could not sleep. I was sleeping through the contractions, because they were every 2 to 3 minutes, and they were very painful. They were I was so tired, but I couldn't really sleep. So around 7 a.m. I got up to go pee, and as I was getting out of the bed, my water completely broke. Just went all over the floor. It was total cliche, like in the movies. It was kind of funny. As my midwife came in, my water broke, and I looked at her and I said, oh, I think my water is broken, because, she told me that I would know. So And then it kind of gets blurry from there. We got into the bath. She's kind of timed my contractions for a little bit. They were still every 3 minutes. They hadn't picked up. They weren't any more painful, but they were still very painful. But they weren't getting worse. They weren't, you know what I mean? Like, it had been complete 24 hours, and they were not getting any worse. And then I started to ask for the epidural. I was like, I wanted the epidural anyway, but I was like, okay, you know, I'm kind of done with this. Like, let's give me an epidural and give me some oxytocin or something. Just get the show on the road here. Yeah, then it all happens really fast. I got really sick. I started throwing up. I started to feel like I had to take shit, but I couldn't go. It was just him pressing down in my birth canal. And yeah, I got in the bed, and she told me I had to be 3 centimeters before they would give me the epidural. But the, oh man, what is it called? Totally drawing a blank. The guy that does the epidurals, they decided that they would do it. So they put the epidural in, they hooked me up to some oxytocin, they came in and checked me. I was still only a 1. And then it got scary. They said that I wasn't doing good and the baby wasn't doing good. They said that both of our heartbeats were tachy, which means tachycardia. They were just, mine was over 100 beats per minute. My blood pressure was insane. I had a high fever. I was shaking, like full-on tremors, like shaking like this. I'd been shaking for hours. And his heart rate, I'm not sure totally if it was declining or just going really fast. I think it was just going really fast. But a surgeon basically came in and said, we're thinking we need to do a C-section. Both you and the baby are not doing good. And I was like, oh my god, yeah, okay. Get me in there, let's do this. But they were like, no, we want to give you an hour, see if you dilate further. They wanted me at least to a 7. And I was like, are you kidding me? So they fully hooked up the Pitocin, oxytocin, I'm not totally sure which one. I think it was oxytocin. And I was completely numb. I didn't feel anything. And they really got it going. I remember at one point the nurse was like pressing on my stomach during the contractions to see how intense they were, and she was just like, you know, feel your stomach, and it was like rock hard. Like, I thought the Braxton Hicks, they were really hard, but it was like insanely hard. They said that I was having like the hardest contractions you can have, and I'm so grateful I didn't feel it. So anyway, the surgeon came back in. By the way, she had a really thick accent. I'm not sure of what like origin or whatever it was, but really thick accent. I could barely understand her, if at all. And they told me, they checked me, and I was a 2. I just was not dilating, and I think it was mostly because I was scared, you know. I thought something was wrong with my baby. I didn't know what was going on. And they were all surrounding me and pressing on me and poking on me. I really could not relax and dilate. I was feeling really, really sick. I was, like I said, tremors, fever. So they said, okay, we're going to do the C-section. And then it just got crazy. The guy came in, the medicine guy, and he gave me I'm not sure if there's a difference between like an epidural and a spinal, but he gave me something else to numb me on top of my epidural. And then, yeah, they wheeled me in. Jordan, my fiance, was with me. My midwife was with me. Yeah, we went into the C-section. I couldn't feel my body at all. And then they started cutting, and I felt it. It wasn't like, oh my god, like painful, but I felt it. It was painful, and yeah, they wanted to put me under, and I was like, no fucking way are you putting me under. So I kind of just got through it. And then they cut him out, they pulled him out, he cried right away, he was bright pink and red, he was so red, he was so mad. They brought him over to the warmer, and Jordan was there with him, and I'm so happy he was. And they rushed him, well, Jordan brought him over, and I kissed him, and then I started to get really, really sick. This was the sickest I've ever been. I was throwing up every couple of minutes, and I was so numb. I was numb from the back of my throat that I kept choking on my puke and passing out at the same time because I was fucking exhausted. And it was really, really scary. I went into complete shock, I think. Had an insane panic attack and then went into shock. And I didn't get to hold him or anything because I was just in no state to hold him, and they needed to bring him to the NICU because they were worried that something was wrong with him as well because of his heart rate when he was inside me, and then my infection. And then I started to bleed out. Because they gave me the antibiotics for the GBS, my uterus was like lax. It wouldn't contract. I heard all of this afterwards, by the way. So I didn't know what was going on. It would not contract, which was very scary, and I was bleeding out. It was very serious, and I could have died. There was I'm not too sure about the timing, but I would say 20 minutes where I was just vomiting, like, severely, and it was so violent, and just couldn't get a breath in, and they took my uterus out of me, and they were, like, manually trying to get it to contract, and everyone kind of held their breath at that time, and then eventually, they were like, okay, it's contracting, it's all good, and my midwife patted my hand and was like, okay, everything is alright now, just close your eyes, just try to relax. I was like, how can I relax, you know? And then they wheeled me out of there, stitched me up and wheeled me out of there. I was still tremoring, I was so cold. They put a warm blanket, like, literally over my head, like, not over my face, but over my head. Oh, and I forgot to say, the blue sheet that they put in front of you so you can't see what they're doing, I kept inhaling it, because I would choke on my vomit and go, you know, and I would inhale the fucking thing. Honestly, it was just terrible. And then they took me into recovery, and they monitored me, and my blood pressure was still insane. My fever was insane. My heart rate was insane. Everything was just crazy, and there was like 60, I don't know how many fucking nurses and doctors in there, but it was really scary. And eventually, you know, it all was fine. And Jordan kept coming in, and he showed me pictures of my boy, and I just remember lying there and just feeling so helpless, and like all I wanted to do was get up and go see my son, and I couldn't. I was lying flat on my back because I didn't know this, but they raise, like, your chair, like, raise you up slowly over time so you don't pass out or get blood clots or something. Like, it's messed up. So I just kept saying, can I go see my son? Can I go see my son? Because I wanted to breastfeed. I wanted to get in there and start, and they wouldn't let me do it. And eventually, I think I badgered the nurse enough that everything evened out. Like, my fever went down, my blood pressure went back to normal, my heart rate went back to normal, and I kept telling them, like, I'm having a panic attack, I'm having a panic attack, like, you're all in my fucking face, I'm having a panic attack, like, that's why everything is so insane, like, back the fuck off, and I will calm down. Nobody listened. So anyway, around 7 o'clock, he was born at 12:05, actually not 7 o'clock, what am I talking about, 4 o'clock, they wheeled me in there, in the bed into the NICU, because they wanted to run antibiotics through him to make sure he was okay. And I got to hold him for the first time, and I remember I just whipped the fucking nurse gown off and put him on my chest, and it was the best feeling ever. It was so amazing. Everything just went shh. I didn't, you know, I forgot everything that I've been through. I just held him on my chest, and practice latching him, and we were in there for hours, and yeah, and then breastfeeding. I think I'll make a different video on breastfeeding, because this video is already 20 minutes long somehow. But yeah, that, look at that little face, you can't see it, but yeah, that's how he was born, and the experience. So yeah, okay, say bye-bye. No, he just wants to sleep. Okay, bye-bye, YouTube.